There is a miracle locked inside your mouth. Most people are waiting to see something before they say something. But the truth is, nothing will change in your life until your words change first. You may be surrounded by lack, you may feel weak, you may see no sign of progress. But faith does not speak what is, it speaks what will be. If you can learn to say it before you see it, if you can hold fast to your confession when everything around you says otherwise, then you are stepping into a law that never fails. Today, you're going to understand how to speak your reality into existence until what you've been declaring becomes what you're living. Words are not empty sounds. They are containers of power, carrying the ability to shape, direct, and establish the course of your life. Every time you speak, you are releasing something into motion. Your words are constantly framing your reality, whether you realize it or not. Many people are living today in the result of yesterday's confessions. What they repeatedly said in moments of fear, doubt, and uncertainty has taken root and produced exactly what was spoken. The unseen realm responds to words before the seen realm ever changes. That means what you are declaring right now is already working, even if you cannot yet see the evidence. Words are like seeds planted into the soil of your life. When planted consistently, they do not remain dormant forever. They grow, develop, and eventually manifest. If the words are filled with faith, they will produce life, victory, and increase. But if they are filled with doubt, fear, and negativity, they will produce limitation, defeat, and stagnation. Most people speak according to what they see, but those who understand spiritual principles speak according to what they desire to see. There is a difference between describing your situation and declaring your outcome. When you only talk about your problems, you give them authority to remain. But when you begin to speak the desired result with boldness and conviction, you are setting something higher in motion. Your voice becomes the instrument that calls things into alignment. What you say repeatedly carries more weight than what you say occasionally. A single statement may not seem significant, but a consistent confession builds momentum. Just as water dripping continuously can shape stone, your daily words shape your life over time. This is why casual speech is never truly casual. Every word matters, every sentence contributes, and every confession is directing the path ahead. Your mind will often try to argue against faith-filled words, especially when circumstances appear unchanged. It will tell you that what you are saying is not real, that you should speak facts instead. But there is a higher truth than facts. Facts are temporary conditions. Truth is unchanging. When you align your words with truth instead of circumstances, you begin to override what is temporary with what is eternal. There is also a strong connection between your heart and your mouth. What fills your heart will eventually come out in your words. If your heart is full of fear, your speech will reflect it. If your heart is full of faith, your words will carry confidence and authority. This is why transformation begins internally, but is released externally through speaking. When belief rises within you, it must be expressed through your mouth to produce results. Many struggle because they speak one way in prayer and another way in daily conversation. They ask for breakthrough, yet continue speaking defeat throughout the day. This creates conflict, and where there is conflict, there is no consistent result. Words must be aligned, not divided. When your confession remains steady regardless of how you feel or what you see, you begin to tap into a force that cannot be stopped. Speaking is not merely communication, it is creation. Every declaration is forming something, shaping something, establishing something. The direction of your life is not random. It is being influenced daily by the words you choose. Whether you realize it or not, you are always speaking yourself into a future, and that future will eventually reflect the dominant voice you have been releasing consistently. Faith does not wait for visible proof before it speaks. It operates from a place that is deeper than what the eyes can see and stronger than what the senses can feel. When faith rises within a person, it compels them to declare something that has not yet appeared in their natural circumstances. This is where many struggle, because the natural mind wants evidence first, but faith requires expression first. It calls for words that align with the unseen reality rather than the visible situation. There is a clear difference between hope and faith. Hope looks forward and desires change, but faith speaks as if that change is already secured. It does not hesitate, it does not shrink back, and it does not wait for confirmation from the outside. Instead, it declares with confidence, even when everything around seems unchanged. This kind of speaking is not based on emotion or optimism, but on a settled conviction within the heart that what has been spoken will come to pass. The unseen realm responds immediately to faith-filled words, even when the physical realm appears slow to follow. Just because there is no instant visible result does not mean nothing is happening. Faith understands that there is always a process between declaration and manifestation. During that process, consistency in speaking becomes crucial. If the words change, the direction changes. But if the confession remains steady, it keeps everything moving toward the desired outcome. Many people speak positively when they feel encouraged, but as soon as pressure increases or circumstances worsen, their words begin to reflect doubt. This interrupts the flow of faith. Faith must be maintained especially when there is no visible evidence. In fact, the absence of evidence is where faith is most powerful. Speaking in that moment is an act of trust, a demonstration that belief is not dependent on what can be seen. There is also a discipline involved in speaking before seeing. It requires control over thoughts, emotions, and reactions. When challenges arise, the natural response is to describe the problem in detail, to repeat it, and to give it attention through words. But faith resists that urge. It chooses instead to declare the solution, even when the problem feels overwhelming. This is not denial of reality, but a decision to give more authority to what is believed than to what is experienced. Words spoken in faith carry a different weight than ordinary speech. They are backed by conviction, sustained by belief, and directed toward a specific outcome. When these words are repeated consistently, they begin to shape internal thinking and eventually influence external conditions. What starts as a declaration becomes a mindset, and what becomes a mindset eventually reflects in reality. The moment a person decides to speak only what aligns with their desired outcome, a shift begins to take place. Thoughts begin to adjust, expectations begin to rise, and actions begin to align. This is how faith moves from being an idea to becoming a force in operation. It starts with a decision to speak, continues with persistence in that confession, and grows stronger each time the words are repeated, despite opposing circumstances. There is power in declaring something before it appears, because it sets a direction that circumstances must eventually follow. The voice becomes a guide, leading the way forward. Instead of reacting to life, the person begins to shape it through consistent, faith-filled speaking, establishing a pattern where what is said in belief becomes what is seen in reality. Circumstances have a voice. They speak through what you see, what you feel, and what you experience daily. They try to tell you what is possible and what is not, what will change and what will remain the same. If you listen long enough, they begin to shape your expectations, and eventually they influence your words. But there is something greater than circumstances, and that is the power of your confession. What you consistently say has the ability to rise above what you are currently facing. Many people unknowingly give authority to their circumstances by constantly talking about them. They repeat what is wrong, they describe what is lacking, and they rehearse what is not working. In doing so, they reinforce the very situation they want to escape. Words are not neutral. They either empower the problem or establish the solution. When your speech is dominated by what is going wrong, it strengthens the hold of those conditions over your life. There is a different approach, one that requires intentional speaking. Instead of echoing what is seen, you begin to declare what you desire to see. This does not mean ignoring reality, but it means refusing to let reality have the final word. Your confession becomes a higher authority, something that stands above temporary conditions and begins to direct a new outcome. Even when everything around you appears unchanged, your words begin to set a new direction. The challenge often comes when circumstances intensify. Pressure, delay, and discomfort can make it difficult to maintain the right confession. The mind begins to question, and emotions begin to react. In those moments, it is easy to slip back into speaking what is visible instead of what is believed. But that is precisely when your words matter the most. Speaking in alignment with your desired outcome during opposition is what keeps you positioned for change. Your confession acts as a boundary. It determines what you allow to take root in your life and what you reject. When negative thoughts arise, or when situations attempt to dictate your future, your words can push back against them. Instead of agreeing with fear or doubt, you establish a different agreement through your speech. This creates resistance against what is trying to remain and opens the way for something new to emerge. There is also a consistency required in overriding circumstances. It is not enough to speak positively once and then revert back to negative speech the next moment. The power lies in sustained confession. As you continue to declare what aligns with your desired outcome, something begins to shift internally. Your thinking becomes more aligned, your expectations begin to change, and your perspective starts to rise above the limitations that once held you. Over time, what you consistently say begins to outweigh what you temporarily see. The influence of your words becomes stronger than the influence of your circumstances. What once seemed permanent starts to lose its authority, and what once felt impossible begins to feel attainable. Your voice becomes the dominant force, not because circumstances disappeared instantly, but because you chose not to give them the final say. Power is not released through occasional words, but through consistent confession. It is not what you say once in a moment of inspiration that changes your life, but what you continue to say day after day, regardless of how you feel or what you see. Many people speak words of faith when they are motivated, but as soon as emotions shift or challenges arise, their confession changes. This inconsistency weakens the effect of their words and interrupts the flow of what could have been established. There is a process to seeing results, and consistency is what sustains that process. Just as anything in life requires repetition to produce visible outcomes, the same principle applies to speaking. When you repeat something often enough, it begins to take root, not only in your surroundings but also within you. Your mind starts to accept it, your expectations begin to align with it, and your actions gradually move in that direction. What once felt uncertain becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar starts to feel possible. Consistency requires discipline. It means choosing your words carefully, even when it would be easier to speak casually or negatively. It involves being aware of what comes out of your mouth in everyday conversations, not just in intentional moments of speaking. Every word contributes to a pattern, and that pattern determines the direction of your life. When your speech becomes aligned consistently with what you desire, it creates a steady flow that cannot easily be disrupted. There will be times when nothing seems to change, when the words you are speaking appear to have no immediate effect. This is where many people give up. They assume that because they do not see instant results, their words are not working. But consistency is most important during these moments. Just because something is not visible does not mean it is not developing. There is always movement beneath the surface before anything becomes evident outwardly. Repetition builds strength. Each time you declare the same faith-filled words, you reinforce them. They become stronger, more established, and more dominant over opposing thoughts and circumstances. What starts as a deliberate effort eventually becomes a natural way of speaking. Your confession becomes your default response instead of something you have to remind yourself to do. This shift is what keeps the power active continuously. Inconsistency, on the other hand, creates instability. When words shift back and forth between faith and doubt, it produces mixed signals. It is like trying to move forward while constantly stepping backward. Progress becomes slow, uncertain, and often interrupted. Consistency eliminates that conflict. It keeps everything moving in one direction without contradiction or interference. There is also a cumulative effect to consistent speaking. Each declaration builds upon the previous one, creating momentum over time. The more you repeat something, the more established it becomes. This momentum is what eventually leads to visible change. It may not happen all at once, but it develops steadily until what you have been saying begins to appear in your reality. Consistency transforms words from simple statements into a force that is continuously working. It keeps the process active, it maintains alignment, and it strengthens belief. Over time, what you have been repeatedly declaring begins to carry such weight within you that it influences how you think, how you respond, and how you move forward, causing everything to gradually align with the direction your words have been setting. Doubt has a voice just like faith does, and it reveals itself through words. It may begin as a thought, but if it is allowed to settle, it will eventually come out through what you say. When doubt is spoken, it carries influence, and that influence works against the very thing you may be trying to believe for. Many people do not realize that it is possible to cancel out their own progress simply by allowing conflicting words to come out of their mouths. There is a difference between having a moment of uncertainty and giving that uncertainty authority through speech. Thoughts can come and go, but words establish direction. The moment doubt is spoken repeatedly, it begins to take root and shape expectation. Instead of moving forward in confidence, a person becomes divided internally. One part is trying to believe, while another part is speaking in opposition. This division weakens the overall effect of what is being declared. Faith requires agreement, and agreement cannot exist where there is contradiction. When words of faith are mixed with words of doubt, it creates instability. It is similar to trying to build something solid on a foundation that keeps shifting. No matter how strong the intention may be, the lack of consistency in speech prevents anything from becoming firmly established. What is spoken must remain aligned in order to produce results. Doubt often disguises itself as realism or honesty. It tells you to say it like it is, to acknowledge what is visible, and to accept it as final. While it may sound reasonable, constantly speaking what is wrong reinforces it. It keeps attention fixed on the problem and strengthens its presence. Over time, this kind of speech conditions the mind to expect no change, making it harder to believe for anything different. There is also a gradual effect when doubt is allowed to continue unchecked. It does not usually take over all at once. Instead, it enters through small statements, subtle remarks, and casual expressions. Phrases that seem harmless can slowly shape a negative pattern of thinking and speaking. Once that pattern is established, it becomes the default response, and breaking free from it requires intentional effort. Guarding your words becomes essential if you want to maintain progress. It is not about pretending that challenges do not exist, but about refusing to give them power through your speech. When doubt tries to rise, it must be replaced immediately with words that align with what you truly desire. This requires awareness and discipline, especially in moments when emotions are strong or circumstances are pressing. There will be pressure to speak what you feel, especially when situations are difficult or prolonged. Emotions can push you to express frustration, fear, or discouragement. But yielding to that pressure and voicing it repeatedly strengthens the very condition you are trying to overcome. Choosing instead to speak with intention, even when it goes against how you feel, keeps your direction intact. Words have a way of reinforcing belief, whether positive or negative. When doubt is spoken, it strengthens uncertainty and weakens confidence. When faith is spoken, it strengthens belief and stabilizes expectation. This is why controlling what you say is not a small matter. It directly affects the outcome you are moving toward and determines whether progress continues or is quietly undone through conflicting confession. Your words are not only describing your life, they are programming it. Every statement you repeat consistently is entering your mind like an instruction, shaping your beliefs, influencing your decisions, and setting the direction for your future. Whether you realize it or not, your mouth is constantly feeding your mind with information, and your mind begins to accept that information as truth over time. What is accepted as truth internally eventually becomes expressed externally through actions and results. The human mind responds strongly to repetition. When something is said often enough, it starts to feel familiar, and what feels familiar begins to feel real. This is why repeated words carry such influence. If a person continually says that they are limited, incapable, or stuck, those words begin to form a pattern of thinking that supports those ideas. The mind adjusts to match the confession, and soon the individual begins to act in ways that align with those spoken beliefs. In the same way, speaking words of growth, ability, and progress begins to reshape internal thinking. Even if it feels unnatural at first, consistent repetition starts to break old patterns and establish new ones. The mind begins to accept these words, and as acceptance grows, confidence follows. What was once difficult to believe gradually becomes a natural expectation. This shift does not happen instantly, but it develops through steady, intentional speaking. Your future is not only determined by external opportunities or circumstances, it is heavily influenced by the internal programming created through your words. The way you speak about your life, your abilities, and your situation sets the tone for what you expect and what you pursue. If your words are filled with limitation, your expectations will shrink and your actions will follow that pattern. But if your words are filled with possibility, your thinking expands and your actions begin to reflect that expansion. There is also a connection between words and decision making. The beliefs formed through repeated speech influence the choices you make daily. If your internal programming tells you that something is not possible, you will hesitate or avoid taking action altogether. But if your words have programmed your mind to expect progress and success, you will be more willing to take steps forward, even when there is uncertainty. Changing your future begins with changing your confession. It requires becoming aware of what you are consistently saying and making intentional adjustments. This is not about occasional positive statements, but about developing a pattern of speech that aligns with where you want to go. Every word becomes a tool, either reinforcing old limitations or building a new direction. There will be moments when old patterns try to reassert themselves. Familiar phrases and habitual ways of speaking may attempt to return, especially in times of pressure. Recognizing these patterns is essential, because what is repeated will be reestablished. Replacing those old words with new, intentional declarations begins to shift the programming once again. Over time, the words you choose to speak consistently begin to create a mental environment that supports growth, confidence, and forward movement. This environment influences how you think, how you respond, and how you act. As these changes take place internally, they begin to reflect externally, guiding your life in the direction that your words have been setting all along. Victory is not something that is sustained by a single moment of belief or a one-time declaration. It is maintained through continual alignment, and that alignment is established through daily speaking. Every day presents new situations, new pressures, and new opportunities to either reinforce what you believe or drift away from it. Without consistent declaration, it becomes easy to fall back into patterns of thinking and speaking that do not support the outcome you desire. Each day carries its own set of influences. What you hear, what you see, and what you experience can begin to shape your mindset if left unchecked. Negative reports, challenging circumstances, and unexpected delays can slowly erode confidence if they are allowed to dominate your attention. This is why daily declaration becomes essential. It serves as a reset, bringing your focus back to what you are choosing to believe rather than what is trying to influence you from the outside. Speaking victory daily establishes a rhythm. It creates a pattern that keeps your thoughts aligned and your expectations steady. Instead of reacting to each situation as it comes, you begin the day with intention, setting the tone through your words. This intentional start influences how you respond throughout the day, helping you maintain consistency even when faced with opposition. There is also a strengthening effect that comes with daily declaration. Each time you speak words of victory, you reinforce them within yourself. What may have started as a deliberate effort gradually becomes a natural response. Over time, your default way of speaking shifts. Instead of needing to remind yourself to stay positive or focused, it becomes an automatic expression of what is already established within you. Daily speaking also protects against drift. Without it, small negative thoughts or careless words can begin to accumulate. These small shifts may not seem significant at first, but over time they can lead to a change in direction. Consistent declaration acts as a safeguard, keeping your focus steady and preventing those gradual shifts from taking hold. There will be days when it feels easier to speak negatively, especially when circumstances are not improving as quickly as expected. In those moments, the discipline of daily declaration becomes even more important. It is not about how you feel in the moment, but about maintaining alignment with what you have chosen to believe. Speaking victory on difficult days strengthens resilience and reinforces commitment. Your words each day are setting the course for what lies ahead. They are not isolated to the moment in which they are spoken, but continue to carry influence beyond that point. What you declare today is contributing to what you will experience tomorrow. This ongoing process is what keeps everything moving forward, ensuring that your direction remains consistent over time. As daily declaration becomes a habit, it begins to shape your overall outlook. Your perspective shifts from reacting to circumstances to guiding them. Instead of being influenced by what happens around you, you become more grounded in what you consistently declare. This steady alignment keeps you positioned for progress, allowing what you have been speaking to continue unfolding in your life day by day. What you have been speaking is not without effect. It has been shaping, forming, and directing your life all along. The power has never been absent. It has always been present in your words. The only question is whether those words have been working for you or against you. Everything begins to change the moment you become intentional with what you say. When your confession aligns consistently with what you desire rather than what you see, a shift begins to take place. It may not always be immediate or visible, but it is always in motion. Each word spoken in faith is building something, establishing something, moving you closer to what you have declared. There will be moments of pressure, times when circumstances seem louder than your voice, and days when it feels easier to speak what is wrong instead of what is right. But those are the moments that matter most. Staying consistent, holding your confession steady, and refusing to let doubt take over is what keeps everything moving forward. Your future is not left to chance. It is being shaped daily by the words you choose. What you continue to say will eventually become what you see. As long as your words remain aligned, the process remains active, and the outcome remains on its way.